Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. In this video, I'm going to have to comment on what the orange one across the sea has been doing now, because it's gone well beyond dangerous and into existential threat. So when it comes to discussing the difference between the left and right of politics, you could be debating till the cows come home, but I think one clear distinction is in what is the purpose of the complex societies that humanity has constructed in the form of nations. To the right wing, it's a pyramid scheme which allows those individuals who simply wouldn't survive in a small tribal system from profiting from the blood, sweat and tears of the majority. It exists to elevate a small number of people. To the left, it's the purpose is that we all gain mutual benefit in living a more comfortable existence than in said small tribes kipping in caves or up a tree. The point is that if, like me, you're leaning more towards the notion that a nation exists for the benefit of everyone, not just a few, then a government's first duty is to protect its citizens and effectively bat for them. That President Trump has failed badly in this regard is not news at all, but he's thrown the last lingering threads of his sanity overboard now with his order to cut funding to the World Health Organization in the middle of a global pandemic. The World Health Organization exists for one overarching purpose: to save lives. It carries out research and healthcare programs around the world. Its worth has been demonstrated in the current pandemic emergency because nations who followed their advice, which has had to be developed, have suffered much less, with those countries that most ignored it suffering the most. And that is what prompted the nylon head tosser's response. Trump's response has been inept, utterly inept, and it has changed so wildly as well. He began by refusing to take it seriously, saying it was nothing more than flu, or at least no more serious than flu. He even tried asking why Americans can't just use a flu vaccine. I mean, what? Why not? For a few deaths in America when that really started, he was still saying it was no issue. He actually said that it would just suddenly disappear overnight, like a miracle, he said. Now the country stands on tens of thousands of deaths, with many times more predicted, and he agrees that it's a serious emergency now. Well done, he's finally come around it. But he also says that he always said so. A couple of days ago at a press conference, he tried to present a video showing how well his response had been, and a reporter asked why he missed out the whole of the month of February. What did the president do about the crisis in February, she asked. Now, the word meltdown has been used to describe how the president reacted to that question. Needless to say, he wasn't able to name a single thing that he had done in the month of February. Even he knows that playing golf doesn't beat a viral pandemic. Then he announced, basically a day later, that he was going to follow through on his earlier threats to cut WHO funding. And this isn't just an assault on humanity. I'm not going to go into hyperbole by calling it a crime against humanity. It isn't a crime because he's not breaking the law, but it is a deeply immoral assault on humankind. But on a more practical level, the president, of course, whose first duty is to the American people, not, people generally in the world. It would be nice, but to the people of America, and he is failing them by this act as well. Because had he followed the World Health Organization advice, most of those who have died and who are going to die could have been saved. We know this from comparing countries who followed the advice to varying degrees. And by attacking the World Health Organization, the president is attacking their response to the pandemic and their advice as well, putting even more lives in danger. Trump has said that he will have done a brilliant job if he keeps the death toll to 200,000. Now think about that. He thinks he should be praised if he kills 200,000 Americans. Presumably, if the death toll actually makes it to 500,000, he will demand that Congress create him a new medal. And why is this such a big deal to someone thousands of miles away from the orange lunatic? Because the world is connected. This is what I've tried to explain to Brexiteers in my own land. The world is connected, and the US is an extremely large cog in that global connection of societies, particularly to someone who believes in generally Western values. What the president says and does ripples around the world, and no less so in the Western world. And he's only doing this. This response is only because he's sick of people contrasting his take on the pandemic with the experts. He's just a spiteful little goblin, not an international leader. And this episode is going to erode still further America's influence in the Western world. Now, that would of course be particularly worrying to Americans. But actually, I think it's worrying for many of us outside of America as well. It's not really a good thing that America's leadership will be on the wane. So the guy who pulled the funding on America's own pandemic response group, an office that was set up after the Ebola scare in order to be better prepared for the next inevitable pandemic, was considered a waste of money by President Babyhands, has now cut funding to a global organisation that is helping with this pandemic, at least for those countries who will listen to their advice. And again, that is going to have ramifications for the rest of this crisis as well. But those are my views. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.